Hey there! Silly Story here, bringing you another silly tale for everyone to enjoy. Book 3 of the Billionaire Brotherhood series, 6 Powerful Men. A secret society bound by one vow: success at any cost. They're rich, ruthless, and driven, though when it comes to love, they're not always as successful. This is a story of Adam Davis and a goddess named Eloise. I've got a massive crush on the CEO hunk, Adam Davis, which of course led me to secretly intern at his company. But, oh boy, his charisma was so distracting, it practically derailed my fabulous career. I mean, a goddess like me shouldn't be this pathetic. So, I did what any sensible woman would do. I ditched that job and decided to pursue a career in our family's company instead. And guess what? It was a total success. I'm absolutely thriving, thank you very much. But, plot twist, our company partnered with his. And guess who came back into my life like a thunderstorm of distraction? Yep, Adam. And without even realizing it, I went and proposed to become his girlfriend. And, get this, he actually said yes. I can't even believe it just happened. I mean, seriously, what kind of logic was I using? Story begins. Make sure to visit our YouTube channel if you enjoyed this. Show some love by hitting like, sharing it with someone you know, and subscribing so you can be part of this channel's journey. I leaned back in my chair, groaning as I clutched my stomach. Why did I eat that much? The remnants of my midnight feast: 2 slices of greasy pizza, a chocolate muffin, and a handful of questionable leftover fries from the office fridge mocked me from the desk. It had seemed like a great idea at the time, especially with no one around to judge. But now, my stomach churned in protest. A heavy, uncomfortable pressure building beneath my ribs. I shifted in my seat, hoping to ease the growing tightness. Note to self, no stress eating during all-nighters, I muttered, rubbing my belly in slow circles. The fluorescent lights hummed quietly overhead as I kicked off my heels under the front desk, savoring the cool marble against my aching feet. Summit Builder's office was silent, eerily so. It was past midnight, and I was the only intern crazy enough to pull an all-nighter. Of course, it was less about the work, and more about catching a glimpse of him. Adam Davis, CEO, my brother's insufferable friend, and the man who had, without even knowing it, made me abandon all logic to apply for this internship. Disguised with glasses, and my hair tied back, I looked nothing like the girl he had occasionally seen trailing behind Henry and Hayden Hall. Just as I massaged my feet, mumbling under my breath about my brother's latest prank, involving glitter and my poor car, I heard a voice. Still whining about them, huh? I shrieked, spinning around so fast I nearly toppled. There, leaning against my desk with a smirk, was Henry, dressed casually, as if midnight meetings were his playground. Beside him, Adam stood, stone-faced, and every bit as devastatingly handsome as usual. Bro, Henry, I gasped. What are you doing here? He grinned, clearly amused by my flustered reaction. Just a business meeting with Mr. Davis, he said casually. I straightened up, hoping the dim lighting would hide my flushed face. I didn't realize. If I disturbed you, I'm sorry. Her brother simply ruffled her hair. His tone relaxed. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. But it does bother me, Adam muttered under his breath, sounding irritated. His phone was still in his hand, and from the sharpness of his voice, it was clear I had interrupted an important call. Sorry, I murmured, feeling the weight of my mistake. Henry, sensing a chance to tease me, stepped closer. So, what are you really doing here this late, sis? His voice was loud and playful. I thought you weren't a fan of late nights. I leaned in, eyes narrowed. Keep your voice down, or I swear. You'll what? Fart me to death, Henry whispered back with a chuckle. We both snickered, but from a distance, it probably looked like we were flirting. Adam shot a glare our way, irritation clear on his face. Quiet, he snapped, his conversation interrupted again. Henry threw up his hands in mock surrender. Fine, fine. He sauntered off toward Adam's office, leaving me alone with my embarrassment. I sighed and turned to Adam. Mr. Davis, can I get you something? Water? Coffee? He ignored me, still engrossed in his call. I shrugged and bent to slip my heels back on. But just as I did, a sound sharp and utterly mortifying echoed through the silent lobby. A fart. My breath caught. For a moment, everything stood still. Then, slowly, Adam turned, disbelief etched across his face. It was the lizard, I blurted out, offering a weak smile. The silence here is so intense. I swear you can hear a lizard's noise. He pinched the bridge of his nose and stormed out. I exhaled, muttering, as if his farts are lavender-scented or something. I watched him stumble, then braced himself against the glass door. Before I could process what was happening, he collapsed. Oh my God, Adam. I rushed to his side. Don't die. His eyes flickered open. Shut up, he groaned. You're alive, I squeaked. Wait, no, you need help. No, hospital, he muttered, clutching his stomach. Sorry, you don't get a say in this one, I snapped, dialing emergency services. Moments later, Henry returned, eyes widening at the sight of Adam on the floor. What happened? He collapsed. I think it's his stomach, I said, panicked. Henry knelt beside him. Skipped meals again, didn't you? Idiot. I'm fine, Adam mumbled. But his face told a different story. The medics arrived, their urgency cutting through my spiraling thoughts. As they lifted Adam onto a stretcher, he glanced at me one last time. Open the windows, let the lizards fart out. I gawked at him, then nodded, unable to hold back a grin. Will do, sir. I'll keep the air fresh. And with that, the doors closed behind him, leaving me standing in the echo of my own awkwardness. 3 years ago, I was just a young, naive intern at Summit Builders, nervous, ambitious, and completely distracted by one person, Adam Davis, the CEO and my brother's friend. Tall, composed, and with a presence that demanded attention. He was the kind of guy who made it hard to focus on anything else. My infatuation with him was painfully obvious. First, there was the awkward farting incident. Then, I blushed every time he was near, stumbled over my words, and even managed to spill coffee on his pricey suit. It was a mess, and it didn't exactly help my career. Eventually, I realized that my distractions weren't doing me any favors, so I made the decision to leave Summit Builders. Fast forward to now. I'm not that starry-eyed intern anymore. I'm Eloise Hall, a certified civil engineer and an award-winning project manager at Blue Peak Renovations. I've built a name for myself, independent, successful, and definitely over Adam Davis. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. I was standing inside Halls Limited, my heart pounding with anticipation. A smile tugged at my lips as I remembered the reason I was here. Then, I saw him one of the people I had been looking for. He was talking to a woman. I hung back, watching their exchange with quiet amusement. Henry, please, stop pretending you're Hayden. I've known for a long time that you too often pretend to be each other whenever it's convenient. And I'm not falling for it, she said, her voice sharp. The man responded with calm indifference. Lady, I don't want to be rude, but you're really talking to another man. I am Hayden. Her frustration boiled over. Do you want to fight again, Henry? Is this how it's always going to be? If you want out of this relationship, just say so. He sighed, crossing his arms. I would if I were Henry. I couldn't help but smirk. Typical. The twins always played this game, switching identities whenever it suited them. Most people couldn't tell them apart, and it drove their girlfriends crazy. It was almost impressive how smoothly they pulled it off. Only a few of us knew the truth. You're terrible, both of you. The woman shouted. You're both jerks. You always play with the women who fall for you. Hayden's voice remained steady. Only Henry is like that. I smiled wider. No one could rattle the twins when they had their mindset. Their composure was like a brick wall, unyielding. Why don't you look for Henry and talk to him instead? You're wasting your time with me, lady. I don't even know you, Hayden said, his tone dismissive. Henry, don't do this. Don't make me hate you. I don't want to hurt you, miss, but you've got the wrong guy. I'm not. I decided it was time to jump in. Henry, I called out, rushing over. Without giving him a chance to react, I threw my arms around his neck and planted a firm kiss on his cheek. Hey, Henry. Long time no see. You're looking dashing as always. I turned to the furious woman. Hi, are you Henry's new girlfriend? I hate you, Henry, she screamed before storming off. I watched her retreating figure with mock regret. Oh, she got mad, I said with a shrug. Just a joke. Hayden, still recovering from my sudden ambush, shot me a look. What are you doing here, Eloise? Why are you in our company? He asked. I having some break, I replied smoothly. Aren't you going to follow your girlfriend? She's not my girlfriend. Henry can deal with her. And besides, it's your fault they're on a break. If she doesn't know it yet, well, you're the one going to hell. I patted his shoulder. Please, what goddess gets thrown into hell? He chuckled, brushing his bangs aside. Here's one. You. So, how are Mom and Dad? Haven't they finished their world tour yet? Hayden asked. I stretched out in Hayden's office chair, casually removing the scarf from around my neck as I sank into the plush visitor's chair across from his desk. I don't think so, I said, leaning back with a smirk. Well, we're rich, so they're just touring the world. I glanced at my toenails, polished to perfection, before continuing. Last time I heard from them, they were in Santorini. Hayden didn't react, as usual. His expression was as unreadable as ever. But I wasn't finished. Expect that I'll always visit you both from now on. Mom said you and Henry should get married. They want grandchildren. And for that to happen, I need to take over your company. He didn't even blink. Really? Instead, he handed me a piece of paper. Fax this. I laughed, waving the paper away. No, Hayden. I only deal with pencils, blueprints, and anything that concerns me. I thought so, he replied, not even pretending to be disappointed. Just then, the office door swung open, and in walked a familiar face that never failed to make me smile, even though his brow was furrowed. Henry, Hayden, Gail came crying to me. She said I broke up with her. Hayden pointed at me without hesitation. Eloise is the one to blame. Henry's gaze snapped to me, his frown deepening. Hello, big bro, I said sweetly, flashing my most innocent smile. Who are you? He shot back. Instead of getting annoyed, I closed the distance between us and kissed him on the cheek. I really missed your sarcasm. He wiped at his cheek in irritation. Wipe the lipstick off my cheek, Eloise. We just met last week. I shrugged, wet my thumb, and rubbed at the smudge. Of course, it only made things worse. Better. You're gross, Eloise, he muttered, grabbing a tissue from Hayden. What are you doing here in the company? Henry asked, settling into Hayden's chair. She's taking over our company, Hayden said with a mock serious tone. So we can get married and give Mom grandchildren. Really? Henry picked up the paper Hayden had given me earlier and handed it to me again. Fax this. I just grinned, knowing they were teasing me. They both knew I had absolutely no idea how to work at an investment company, and neither of them was taking my takeover threat seriously. Oh well, I hooked my arms through theirs, leaning on them like I always did. Treat me to lunch. I'm starving, I said. You came here just to get treated, Hayden asked, pretending to be exasperated. You don't have anyone treating you to meals. I shot back, raising an eyebrow. They exchanged a look before speaking in perfect sync. You really are big eater. All right, let's go, I said, tugging them toward the elevator. This was one of the things I loved about my brothers. No matter how much they annoy me, I'd return the favor, and they'd always give in. They were soft-hearted just like Mom and Dad. Though, their pranks, not exactly my cup of tea. Aren't you two getting married yet? How old are you now? 40, I teased as the elevator doors closed. 33, Hayden corrected. Same thing. Still, you're old enough. You should be getting married by now. Stop making women cry after you're done with them. We don't make women cry, Hayden said defensively. Gail was an exception, and that's your fault. I'm still enjoying being single, Henry added, stepping into the elevator. So don't interfere with our life plans, or we might throw you back into Mom's womb. All the way to Santorini, Hayden chimed in. What am I supposed to do during break? I pouted. Mom will get mad if I don't fulfill her request. Just mind your love life, Henry suggested. You get married instead, Hayden added with a smirk. I'm tired of dealing with my love life, I admitted. Nothing good comes of it. Look at me, I don't even have a boyfriend. You want to get married? Hayden asked. No way. You and Henry need to go first. I'm just here to help make that happen. They didn't say anything after that, and for a moment, I thought everything was normal. I loved meddling in their love lives. It made my life interesting. But everything changed when Blue Peak announced a collaboration with Summit Builders for a new, state-of-the-art shopping mall in the heart of the city. At first, I thought it would be fine. I could handle it. Adam Davis, just another business partner. My heart wouldn't skip a beat, not even once. That is, until I walked into that conference room. There he was, tall, commanding, and damn it still as handsome as ever. His dark hair was slightly tousled, giving him a more rugged edge than I remembered. His jawline was sharper, his presence even more imposing. But it was his eyes that hit me hard as piercing and steady, just like before. Miss Hall, he greeted, his voice smooth yet formal, though his gaze lingered a second too long. Mr. Davis, I replied coolly, lifting my chin. If he could play it cool, so could I. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, his expression unreadable. It was maddening how composed he was. Meanwhile, I could feel my pulse thudding in my ears. The meeting went smoothly, at least on the surface. I kept my responses measured, my tone professional. But every time I glanced at Adam, my stomach twisted in ways I hadn't felt in years. Then it happened. Adam was mid-sentence, discussing structural timelines, when his voice faltered. His hand pressed against his stomach, his expression tightening. Adam, I said before I could stop myself, concern lacing my voice. He tried to wave it off, but within seconds, he stumbled, catching himself against the table. Then, he collapsed. Panic rippled through the room. Without thinking, I rushed to his side, ignoring the gasps and murmurs around us. Someone call an ambulance. I barked, crouching next to him. He groaned, clutching his stomach. His skin was clammy, and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. "You really need to stop skipping meals," I muttered, brushing his hair back gently, my fingers trembling. His eyes fluttered open briefly, and despite the pain, there was a flicker of recognition. "Eloise, don't talk. Help's on the way," I whispered, my heart pounding. The medics arrived moments later, clearing the room. I stayed by his side, refusing to leave until they transported him to the hospital. Somehow, I convinced the staff to let me sit beside his bed. His steady breathing filled the quiet room, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to truly look at him. He wasn't the unflappable CEO right now. He was just Adam, vulnerable human. The man who used to irritate me with his stoic stares and unreadable smirks. The man I foolishly swore I'd forgotten. "You're still infuriatingly handsome. You know that," I whispered softly, my voice tinged with both frustration and fondness. "And stubborn. Always too stubborn to eat properly. I don't know if I should shake you awake or kiss you senseless for that." I paused, letting my fingers gently trace the line of his jaw, my touch feather-light. His skin was warm beneath my fingertips, and I could feel the steady beat of his pulse. He looked softer like this. The harsh lines of authority relaxed, his lips slightly parted. "You drive me mad, you know. Back then, I thought you were just a phase, a ridiculous crush. But no, you had to embed yourself in my life, my thoughts, my damn career." I chuckled softly, shaking my head. "I worked my ass off to forget you. Adam Davis. Became one of the best in my field. And yet, here I am still drawn to you like some lovesick fool." His lashes fluttered, but he didn't wake. I let out a long sigh, resting my head on the edge of the bed. My fingers played absent-mindedly with a lock of his hair. "I'm not some silly girl anymore," I murmured, half to myself. "I'm smart, successful, beautiful, and yes, a little arrogant. But maybe I have every right to be. I've earned it. Yet somehow, with you lying here, all of that feels small. You make me feel vulnerable in ways I hate. And yet, here I am pouring my heart out to you, while you're unconscious. Pathetic, right?" I leaned closer, my forehead nearly touching his. "You have no idea how much I loved you back then. How much I fought against it. And now, I don't know if I'm strong enough to fight anymore." My eyelids drooped, the weight of my confession settling over me. His steady breathing lulled me into a hazy comfort. "If you could hear me now," I whispered sleepily, "you'd probably laugh. Or maybe you kiss me?" With that final thought, I drifted off, my fingers still tangled gently in his hair, and my heart resting in a place I swore I'd never let go again. When I woke, Adam's gaze was locked onto mine. His eyes were calm, but there was a flicker of amusement that instantly made me self-conscious. "Good morning, sleepyhead," he murmured, his voice gravelly and far too attractive for someone who just woke up from a medical emergency. Heat surged to my cheeks as I wiped my mouth instinctively. Was I drooling? "A little," he teased, his lips curving into a slow smile. "It's cute." I shot up, sitting straighter, brushing away any lingering embarrassment. "Of course it's cute. I'm beautiful, smart, and successful. Drool just adds character. People wish they could drool as gracefully as I do." Adam chuckled, the deep sound vibrating through the room. "You haven't changed a bit." I folded my arms, narrowing my eyes. "Neither have you. Still overworking yourself into the ground, and refusing to eat like a normal human being. What's next? Skipping water because it's too tough." And I'm Kate and Mink, he grinned. "I might be stubborn, but I'm not the only one in this room with a problem admitting they need help." His eyes softened slightly. "You care too much. It's obvious." Before I could stop myself, the words tumbled out like an avalanche I couldn't stop. "I liked you, you know. Back then, even when you were just the frustratingly mysterious CEO who acted like eating lunch was optional." His expression shifted, surprise flickering in his eyes. But there was something deeper beneath it, something that made my heart trip over itself. "And now?" he asked quietly, leaning forward ever so slightly. "And now?" I paused, forcing myself to exhale. "Now I have an idea, and it's probably the worst idea I've had since I thought I could rock bangs in middle school." His brow arched. "I'm intrigued. This better be good." I took a deep breath, attempting to steady the rapid beating of my heart. "If you're single, let's give dating a try for a month. No strings attached, no expectations. Just to see if we mesh. I just want to move past this and focus on our project peacefully." He was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing my words. His eyes locked with mine, as if he were trying to read me, and I could almost hear him thinking. "A trial relationship." "Yes," I said, straightening my posture, trying to look more confident than I felt. "You get a strong, beautiful, successful goddess who will remind you to eat 3 meals a day, and I waved a hand in his direction. "Well, he hesitated, his lips twitching as though he were trying to suppress a laugh. You're really selling yourself here. Oh, I'm a bargain. You'll thank me later. I smirked. Come on, Davis. What's the worst that could happen? His eyes sparkled with amusement. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Neither do you. I shot back. He leaned back against the bed's headboard, folding his arms across his chest. 1 month, huh? 1 month, I repeated, heart still racing. He held my gaze for a long moment, then finally nodded. All right, 1 month. Let's see if this works. I blinked, caught off guard by how easily he agreed. Wait, really? You're just going to say yes? He shrugged, his grin widening. You make a compelling argument, and besides, I've never been one to back down from a challenge. I rolled my eyes, trying to suppress the grin tugging at my lips. Great, now we're both going to regret this. Oh, definitely. He smirked. But it'll be fun watching you try to boss me around. Try. Oh, Adam, I said, standing up and flashing him a smug smile. I don't try. I succeed. Prepare yourself. He laughed softly. I'm looking forward to it. I turned on my heel, walking toward the door, but not before tossing a playful glance over my shoulder. You better be, because I'm about to rock your world, Davis. He shook his head, still smiling. Bring it on, Hall. One day, in the middle of a hectic work week, Adam caught me off guard with an invitation to Bliss Horizon for a date. I didn't hesitate, just the idea of spending more time with him in such a stunning setting made my heart race. But it wasn't just a simple date. He was also introducing me to his friends. I already knew a few of them, since they were friends with my brothers. But being introduced as his girlfriend filled me with excitement. When we arrived at the main lounge, I could see that Adam's friends were not just close-knit, they were a chaotic, hilarious bunch, each with a personality that seemed to match the wild beauty of the retreat. 5 men were lounging around, each exuding a different kind of energy. Eloise, these are my friends, Adam introduced, a touch of pride in his voice. This is Alexander Young, my cousin, James Williams, Elijah Gray, and, of course, your brothers, Henry and Hayden. Henry and Hayden waved enthusiastically, both grinning with that mischievous look, as if they were already planning something. Nice to meet you, Eloise, James said, standing up with an effortlessly cool smile. I've heard things. His tone was teasing. Good things, I hope, I replied, matching his smirk. Elijah, who looked like he spent half his time charming people, gave a mock salute. I'm just here for the food and the drama. Mostly the drama, he said with a wink. You must be something special to get Adam out of his cave. I laughed. Oh, I'm definitely special. No one else can handle him. Alexander, who had the calm and level-headed demeanor of someone who was perpetually in control, extended a hand. Welcome, don't mind them, he said with a wry grin. They're just shocked Adam has a girlfriend. Shocked? I raised an eyebrow. What, is he that unbearable? Henry and Hayden immediately chimed in. He's unbearable, Henry confirmed, grinning wickedly. But you've got your hands full with him and us. We're watching you, Davis, Hayden added, pointing 2 fingers at his eyes. Then at Adam. Our baby sister's happiness is on the line. I groaned and rolled my eyes. Oh my God, could you be more embarrassing? James laughed. I like her. She's got sass. Adam, looking more than a little uncomfortable with all the attention, grabbed my hand. All right, that's enough. Let's go. I stuck my tongue out at my brothers as Adam led me away. You're not getting rid of me that easily, Henry called after us, clearly enjoying himself. As we walked down the path, Adam sighed heavily. Welcome to my world. There, something, I said, laughing. But I can handle it. Clearly, he said, a soft smile playing on his lips. You're amazing with them. It's like you've always been here. Adam invited me to his house, and let me tell you it was a showstopper. A gorgeous Greek-style design with a stunning view of the lake and a jacuzzi that screamed luxury. Clearly, this wasn't just a house. It was a full-on vacation retreat. You've got a spectacular place, Adam, I said, taking it all in. Glad you think so, he replied with a grin. There's a guest room on the 2nd floor. You can stay there while we're in Bliss Horizon. I didn't need to be told twice. Bursting with excitement, I raced upstairs and flung open the first door I saw. The room had a totally different vibe, rugged, masculine, and surprisingly cozy. And it smelled amazing. Huh? Wrong room, I muttered to myself, inhaling the scent like a weirdo. Adam followed me up, laughing at my obvious confusion. This way, he said, opening the door next to it. Here's your room, but I like this one, I protested with my most charming smile. Nice try, Eloise. But no, ignoring him completely, I plopped down on the massive bed, inhaling the scent again. Smells good. Eloise, get up. Your room's waiting. Nope, too tired. Long trip. Must rest. You can rest in your room. Nah, Eloise. Nope. Adam finally threw up his hands. Fine. Rest here. We'll talk later. Victory. I smirked to myself as he left, feeling smug. But I wasn't bluffing. I really did crash and slept until the afternoon. When I woke up, Adam had a new surprise, introducing me to Bucket, his favorite horse. Bucket, I asked, patting the horse's neck, my brow arching. That's not exactly the majestic name I expected. Adam chuckled, adjusting the saddle with a mischievous glint in his eyes. He's named after how he eats like a bottomless bucket. Reminds me of someone. I narrowed my eyes, fighting back a grin. I eat like a lady, thank you very much. Just a lady who appreciates her food. Sure, he teased, offering me a hand up. His fingers brushed mine, sending a shiver down my spine. Let's see how Lady Eloise handles a sunset ride. Challenge accepted. We rode together, the sound of Bucket's hoof steady on the soft earth beneath us. The golden light of the sun cast a warm, ethereal glow over the landscape, and I couldn't help but feel like I was in a dream. Adam was at ease, guiding Bucket with the kind of effortless grace that only came from years of experience. He barely needed to think about it, and the horse were in perfect sync. Meanwhile, I was hanging on for dear life, doing my best to look somewhat graceful and composed while feeling anything but. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be holding the reins like this or if I should shift my weight to keep balance. It felt like everything was in motion, but I was just trying to stay on the horse. You look like you've been riding your whole life, Adam said, glancing at me with a smirk, clearly amused by my struggle. I gave him a sarcastic smile, gripping the reins tighter. If by riding you mean holding on for dear life while trying to look elegant, then yes, I'm a natural. Adam laughed, the sound rich and warm. Well, you're not falling off yet. I'll take that as a win. I huffed, trying to ignore the growing tension in my arms. I'll make it through this. Don't worry. We continued riding up the winding trail, the distant view growing more breathtaking with each step. The air was crisp, and the sky stretched endlessly above us, bathed in hues of orange and pink as the sun began to set. At the top of the hill, we stopped, and Adam dismounted first, offering me a hand as I awkwardly slid down from Bucket's back. Not bad for a first-timer, he teased, but there was a softness to his voice that made me feel less self-conscious about my awkwardness. I stuck my tongue out at him in playful defiance. I'm just getting started. We laid out a picnic blanket on the grass, and I sank down onto it, grateful for the chance to rest. The view was absolutely incredible. The sky was ablaze with color, the sun dipping below the horizon, painting everything in golden and rose-tinted hues. There was a sense of peace here, a quietness that settled in my chest like a bomb. It was as if all the noise of the world had faded away, leaving just this moment just us. I took a deep breath, then nibbled on a piece of cheese from the picnic spread. Why do you love it here so much? I asked, not looking at him, but still keenly aware of his presence beside me. Adam shifted beside me, propping himself up on his elbows, and glanced at me, his gaze softening. Because it's quiet. No deadlines, no emails. Just peace. I smiled, nudging him with my shoulder. And here I thought you were a workaholic through and through. I am, he admitted with a chuckle, his voice laced with a touch of self-awareness. But even workaholics need a break sometimes, especially with the right company. His gaze lingered on me, a warmth in his eyes that made my heart flutter. I felt my cheeks warm at his words, my stomach doing a little flip. Trying to distract myself from the sudden rush of emotions, I quickly changed the subject. So, what's with this boat ride tomorrow? Are we racing or something? Adam leaned back on his hands, his eyes sparkling with mischief. No, just a relaxing sail. Unless you want to make it a competition. But be warned, I always win. Oh, it's on, I said with a playful grin, leaning closer to him. Prepare to lose, Davis. He raised an eyebrow, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. We'll see about that. I could see the competitive fire light up in his eyes, and it made me even more determined to prove him wrong. You're on, I said, my voice filled with mock seriousness. I'm a force to be reckoned with. Adam laughed again, the sound full of warmth and amusement. All right, Lady Eloise. We'll see if you can back that up tomorrow. I've never met anyone as competitive as you. You haven't seen anything yet, I said with a wink. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of light conversation, shared laughter, and moments of quiet companionship. The sky deepened into twilight, and we watched as the stars began to twinkle overhead. The only sounds the distant calls of birds and the soft rustling of the wind through the trees. It was moments like this quiet, simple, and full of meaning that made everything else feel small and far away. Despite the peaceful surroundings, I couldn't completely shake off the nagging thought that this calm might be fleeting. On top of that, I found myself worrying about Adam's health. But I wasn't about to let those worries steal this precious time with him. Instead, I made a silent vow. I'd keep him healthy and make sure every moment we spent together was filled with joy. I pushed my concerns aside and focused on the here and now. Tomorrow promised another adventure, and I was determined to crush that boat race. The days that followed were a whirlwind of laughter and joy, each one blending into the next with a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. We filled our time with playful adventures, starting with the boat race I foolishly thought I had a chance at winning. Of course, I lost spectacularly, but the real prize was hearing Adam's laughter echo across the water as he teased me about my unique rowing style. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of juggling my vacation and remote work responsibilities, I decided I needed a breather. Bliss Horizon's common lounge seemed like the perfect escape to clear my mind. Little did I know, I was about to meet two women who'd become my unexpected allies, Ava Brown and Blair Williams. Ava was sharp-witted with a philosophical flair, her eyes as keen as her tongue. She had a soft spot for Play-Doh and strong coffee, running a bustling cafe with her husband, James. The place was famous for its coffee-fueled debates and lively atmosphere. Blair, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of energy, bold, brash, and unapologetically herself. By day, she practiced law. By night, she rocked out as a drummer in a local band. And she happened to be James's sister. Despite meeting her for the first time, I could tell she had a fierce independence about her. Family drama, of course, followed. Blair was the ongoing obsession of my brother Henry, whose crush was both ridiculous and relentless. Unfortunately for him, Blair barely tolerated his existence. Strangely enough, though, she had a soft spot for Hayden, my other brother, a fact that drove Henry up the wall. Typical family chaos. Looks like I won't need to play Cupid for my mom after all. So, you're the Eloise, Ava said, sipping her latte with a sly smile, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Adam's mystery woman, and the Hall brothers' surprise sibling, Blair added, her eyebrow arched as she studied me. Didn't think they had any long-lost relatives lurking around? She leaned back, arms crossed, and I definitely didn't think Adam had a romantic bone in his body. He's usually, what's the word, gloomy, grumpy. I flipped my hair dramatically, flashing a smirk. What can I say? I'm different. He couldn't resist this goddess. Both women burst into laughter, Blair clapping her hands in delight. I like her, she said, grinning at Ava. Ava's eyes gleamed with mischief. Me too. But seriously? What's your secret? How did you get Mr. Doom and Gloom to lighten up? I've known him for years, and I've never seen him look so alive. Leaning in as if sharing a deep, guarded secret, I whispered, it's simple, I'm fabulous. They erupted into laughter, their amusement contagious. The weight on my shoulders lifted, and just like that, a bond formed. Laughter and teasing flowed easily between us, creating a friendship that felt as natural as breathing. Over the next few days, I spent more time with Ava and Blair, and they quickly became the sisters I never had. Ava, with her sarcastic humor and sharp intellect, was the kind of woman who could talk about philosophy one minute and dive into the latest gossip the next. Blair, with her unapologetic attitude and fiery spirit, was a constant source of energy and laughter. Together, they made the perfect balance of calm and chaos, and I found myself leaning on them more than I expected. Seriously though, Blair said one afternoon, leaning back in her chair, eyeing me intently, how do you put up with Adam? I mean, the guy's like a human bulldozer. Does he ever stop working? I sighed, leaning back and running a hand through my hair. That's the problem. He doesn't stop. It's like he thinks he's some kind of machine that doesn't need rest. But I can tell it's taking a toll on him. He's constantly exhausted, and he never wants to talk about it. Ava's gaze softened slightly, her usual sharpness replaced with a hint of concern. He's always been like that, hasn't he? A bit of a perfectionist, always pushing himself to the limit. I think it's part of his charm, but also part of his downfall. Blair nodded, tapping her fingers rhythmically on the table. Sounds like my brother James, always working, never resting. It's maddening. Ava gave me a knowing look, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. You're going to have to be patient with him. Adam's not the kind of guy who admits when he's struggling, but he trusts you, Eloise. That's a huge step. I'm sure he'll come around eventually. Blair raised her glass in a mock toast. To patience then, she said, and to making sure Adam doesn't burn himself out before he gets the chance to realize he needs to slow down. I chuckled, feeling lighter than I had in days. To patience, I repeated, clinking my glass with theirs. As the days went on, I found comfort in these new friendships. Ava and Blair were a refreshing change from the constant weight of worry that had been hanging over me. They didn't give me answers, but they gave me something far more valuable, perspective and understanding. And as for Adam, well, I wasn't giving up on him. Not now, not ever. No matter how many boats I lost in races, or how many bad jokes we laughed at under the stars. I was determined to help him find a way to take a break even if it was one small step at a time. One afternoon, we decided to go fishing by the lake. Adam, ever the patient instructor, tried to show me how to cast the perfect line. It's all in the wrist, he explained, his hands guiding mine. Despite his guidance, my line tangled almost immediately. I think this is broken, I muttered, inspecting the rod like it had personally offended me. Adam just chuckled, shaking his head. Or maybe you're just terrible at it, he teased, flashing that infuriatingly charming grin. Oh, really? I shot back, narrowing my eyes. In a flash of mischievous impulse, I shoved him. His expression shifted from smug to shocked as he toppled into the lake with a loud splash. For a second, I stood there, biting my lip to suppress my laughter. Then his head popped up from the water, his eyes wide with mock disbelief. Eloise, he sputtered, wiping water from his face. You're dead meat. Before I could react, he lunged at the dock, grabbing my ankle and yanking me in after him. The cold water hit me like a shock, and I surfaced gasping, only to see Adam grinning triumphantly. You asked for it, he said, laughing as he pushed his wet hair back. I splashed him in retaliation. You deserved it for mocking my fishing skills. Soon, we were both laughing uncontrollably, splashing water like two kids who had forgotten the weight of adulthood. The fishing rods lay abandoned on the dock, their purpose lost in the joy of the moment. We floated in the lake, the sun warming our soaked clothes as the water rippled around us, carrying away every worry. Adam's laughter echoed across the water, infectious and bright, pulling me deeper into a world I didn't want to leave. That evening, after drying off and changing into fresh clothes, the magic refused to fade. We sat by the fire, the flames crackling softly, as we exchanged stories and launched into a battle of the worst jokes imaginable. His punchlines were atrocious, yet somehow, they had me laughing until tears streamed down my face. And then came the candlelit dinner's intimate moments beneath a blanket of stars. In those quiet moments, it felt like the world had paused, leaving only us. The flicker of candlelight danced in his eyes, stirring something deep within me. My heart fluttered in ways I hadn't anticipated, each beat a reminder of how special these moments were. In those moments, time seemed to stand still. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't in a rush to move forward. I wanted to linger, to savor every second in this bubble of happiness with Adam. But beneath the bliss, my concern for Adam's health lingered. Determined to care for him in my own way, I took over the kitchen. At first, he looked skeptical. You, cooking? Are you sure? He teased, eyeing me like I was planning something disastrous. I huffed, offended. Yes, me. Just because I'm a little rough around the edges doesn't mean I can't cook. I happen to be the best chef in the family. To prove it, I whipped up baked salmon, fresh from the port. Adam hesitated but eventually took a bite. His eyes widened in surprise. Then, in what felt like seconds, he devoured the entire meal. Adam, I gasped, offering him water. Did you even taste it? He chuckled, swallowing the last bite. It was so good I couldn't help myself. Got anything else? I grinned, holding up a plate of pies. Before I could say a word, he grabbed one. Dessert? Don't mind if I do. He polished off the pie in record time, and I couldn't help but smile as I watched him. Seeing him enjoy something I made felt fulfilling. Suddenly, he leaned closer, his eyes dark and intense. You've got crumbs, he murmured, brushing his thumb over the corner of my mouth. Before I could react, he licked his thumb, his gaze never leaving mine. My breath hitched as he leaned in further, his face inches from mine. My heart raced, whatever was about to happen. I was ready. Excuse me, a voice interrupted, shattering the moment like glass. We both jerked back, startled, as my twin brothers, Hayden and Henry, appeared out of nowhere, each holding a slice of pie. Bro brother, what are you doing here? I stammered, still processing their sudden arrival. We came to check on you. Make sure you're okay, Hayden said with a smirk. And, of course, to taste the culinary wonders of our best chef. Oh, I mumbled, feeling heat rise to my cheeks. Oh, Henry echoed, taking another bite of pie. The twins weren't done. They teased us mercilessly, their grins wide as they made suggestive comments. I needed air. I excused myself, retreating to collect my thoughts and calm my racing heart. When I returned, the atmosphere had shifted. Adam and my brothers were deep in conversation, their expressions serious. Something unspoken hung in the air, thick and heavy. I tried to lighten the mood, cracking a joke. It worked eventually, the tension melted away, and the twins decided it was time to leave. As they walked out the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Whatever that serious talk had been about, it lingered, casting a shadow over the evening. Yet, despite everything, one thing was clear. Life with Adam was never going to be boring. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, where I knew Adam had barely eaten anything, I marched into his office with a freshly baked chocolate cake in hand, determined to make him stop working, even if it was just for a few minutes. Adam, you need to eat, I said, setting the cake down in front of him with an air of finality. He didn't even look up from his computer screen. Later, he mumbled, his voice flat and distracted, frustrated and not willing to take later for an answer. I dipped my finger into the thick frosting and marched over to him, holding it out toward his face. Oh no, not later. Now, I insisted, pressing my finger toward his lips with playful defiance. Before I could get any closer, he grabbed my wrist gently but firmly, his eyes twinkling with that familiar mischievous spark. What's this? He asked, his voice low, amused. I froze for a moment, momentarily flustered by the sudden attention. My face flushed, and I stammered, your new diet plan. I tried to pull my hand away, but he held it in place with that knowing smirk of his. Before I could think of a way to salvage the moment, he leaned in slowly and, without warning, licked the frosting off my finger. My breath caught in my throat, and my heart skipped a beat. The contact was brief, but it sent a jolt of heat through me that I wasn't expecting. His smile deepened, a glimmer of something unspoken passing between us. Then, without breaking eye contact, he leaned forward, his lips brushing against mine in a kiss sweet, lingering, and full of meaning. It wasn't just about the frosting, I realized. It was about something much deeper. The kiss lasted a moment longer than it probably should have, leaving me breathless, and when we finally pulled away from that kiss, I was left dizzy, my heart racing, my mind swirling with emotions I wasn't ready to unpack. There was something between us, something undeniable that neither of us had spoken aloud until now. It felt real, yet fragile, like a flame flickering in the wind. In the weeks that followed, our relationship seemed to settle into a comfortable rhythm. Adam would surprise me at my office with food, an unexpected gesture from someone notorious for his chaotic eating habits. It felt like he was changing, little by little, and I couldn't help but hope it was because of me. We shared romantic dinners, and on nights I'd visit his place, I'd cook for us. Those evenings were our little sanctuary, where laughter and quiet moments blended seamlessly. One night, after dinner, we stumbled upon a fountain on our walk. Feeling playful, I pulled out 4 coins, handing 2 to him. He raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. You don't actually believe in this stuff, do you? He teased. Maybe, I said, grinning. Just throw the coins. I tossed mine, silently wishing for our relationship to grow stronger, to last. I watched him hesitate before finally tossing his coin. When I pressed him for his wish, he said nothing, just leaned in and kissed me, silencing my curiosity with a tenderness that made my heart ache. For a while, I believed we were building something deep, something lasting. But as the days passed, and the month neared its end, the warmth between us began to fade. Adam grew distant more than he ever had before. His calls became fewer, his visits shorter. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself it was just stress or exhaustion, that it would pass. But deep down, a gnawing feeling settled in my chest, one I couldn't ignore. The fear of losing him. The terror of watching everything we'd built slip through my fingers just when I was finally beginning to understand how much he truly meant to me. That fear haunted me, no matter how hard I tried to push it away. The last day of our trial relationship came like a storm I knew was coming, but refused to acknowledge. Adam invited me to watch a movie. At first, I was thrilled. Finally, he was taking the initiative, something that felt so rare between us lately. I thought maybe this was the turning point. The sign that things would go back to the way they were when we first met, when everything felt easy and right. But that joy was short-lived. We sat down for dinner at our usual spot, the flickering candlelight casting a soft glow between us. I was still smiling, still basking in the warmth of the evening. But as Adam sat across from me, his eyes weren't filled with the same softness I had come to rely on. There was something cold there, a distance I couldn't quite place. So, he began, his voice tight, as though the words were being squeezed out of him. I think it's time we call it. My heart skipped a beat. Call what? I asked, my smile faltering. I thought maybe I hadn't heard him right. He exhaled sharply, his fingers tapping the edge of his glass. Our relationship. This thing between us. I'm not sure it's working anymore. I froze. The words felt like a slap across my face, raw and cutting. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was saying, but my body felt numb, like I was sinking under the weight of the reality he was handing me. What do you mean? I whispered, my voice barely a breath. I thought we were. He interrupted, his eyes shifting away from mine. I know you want this. I know you thought it was going somewhere. But it's not. Not for me. His words were like daggers, sharp and deliberate. My chest tightened, and I felt the air leave my lungs. Is it because of me? I asked, my voice cracking despite myself. Did I do something wrong? Just tell me, Adam. He hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. It's not you, Eloise. It's just me. I'm not in the right place for this. I can't keep pretending. The tears welled up, but I fought them back, holding on to my composure with everything I had left. So that's it. After everything we shared, you're just going to walk away. No explanation, no reason. Adam looked pained, but he didn't offer anything more. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I nodded stiffly, feeling the heat of betrayal rise in my chest. Yeah, well, it's too late for apologies. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. I'll see myself out. And just like that, everything we had built came crashing down. The movie, the laughter, the moments I had cherished, all vanished in the space of a few cruel words. I didn't look back as I walked away, but inside, a part of me was already shattered, broken by the man I had trusted, the man I thought could love me. And as I stepped into the night, I realized with a sinking feeling that I had been left behind, lost in the ruins of something I thought would last. The final straw came when I saw him with another woman, the daughter of a prominent business partner. They were standing close together, laughing like they shared an inside joke. Their chemistry was undeniable, and the sight of them made my heart clench painfully. My stomach twisted into knots, and I couldn't tear my eyes away. I couldn't breathe, my vision blurred, and I quickly turned away, making a beeline for the exit. I stumbled out of the venue, my heels clicking sharply against the polished floor as the tears I'd been holding back threatened to break free. I needed to get out, needed to escape the crushing weight of what I had just seen. That night, I stumbled back to my apartment, my mind a chaotic swirl of hurt and disbelief. When I walked in, the emptiness of my space echoed the emptiness I felt inside. I didn't want to think about Adam. I couldn't. I knew if I let myself feel it, I wouldn't be able to stop crying. So instead, I threw myself into work, burying the pain in blueprints, project proposals, and endless emails. I threw myself into the work I'd put off for far too long, taking on every major assignment Blue Peak Renovations had to offer. It wasn't a solution, but it was a distraction. I worked late, skipped meals, and allowed exhaustion to numb the ache that throbbed inside my chest. Henry and Hayden, my brothers, of course, noticed. They always notice. They weren't subtle, and they never minded their own business. Ellie, you're turning into a zombie, Henry remarked one day, leaning against the doorframe of my office. His brown eyes flicked over the stacks of paper cluttering my desk, his brow furrowing slightly. When was the last time you slept? Or, I don't know, had fun. I didn't look up from my screen, trying to focus on the numbers in front of me. Leave me alone, I muttered, my pen scratching across the paper in angry scribbles. Not happening, Hayden chimed in, appearing at the door behind Henry. He took a few steps into the room, his expression more serious now. We're worried, and don't say you're fine. You're not fine. I'm fine, I snapped, not even bothering to glance up at them. Henry smirked and exchanged a knowing glance with Hayden before taking a step closer. That's why you're taking on 3 projects at once and eating instant noodles for dinner every night. I groaned, rubbing my temples in frustration. What do you two want? To help, Hayden said, settling into the chair across from me. His tone was softer now, though I could hear the concern in his voice. We set you up on a date. I blinked in surprise, pausing mid-sentence as I turned to look at him. Excuse me. Henry grinned, completely unapologetic. Elijah Gray. Remember him? Smart, handsome, also heartbroken. You'll love him. I don't need a date, I muttered, turning back to my paperwork with a sharp exhale. I need you two to back off. But of course, they weren't backing off. Not when they had their mind set on something. So, somehow, a week later, I found myself sitting across from Elijah at a cozy downtown restaurant, trying to make polite conversation. He was nice, genuinely nice. He spoke about his breakup with Fiona and his frustrations. Seems like they also have a long history. He was easy to talk to, kind, and respectful. But none of it mattered, as much as I wanted to lose myself in the distraction. My mind kept drifting back to Adam, to that moment in the event, to the woman with him, to the sharp pang of betrayal that still throbbed in my chest. That's when Adam stormed in. I heard his voice before I saw him. Low, commanding. Elijah, could you excuse us? I turned, my heart leaping into my throat. There he was, disheveled, tense, his jaw clenched tight with a look in his eyes that sent a wave of confusion and panic through me. His presence in the restaurant was impossible to ignore. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were frantic, almost desperate. My heart skipped a beat, but I quickly reminded myself of the pain he had caused. I had no room for him anymore. Elijah raised an eyebrow, glancing between us, then back at me. You okay? I nodded quickly, trying to force a calm smile despite the wild pounding of my heart. It's fine, I muttered, though my pulse was hammering in my chest. Elijah gently tapped Adam on the shoulder, suggesting he calm down. After Elijah had hesitantly walked off, Adam's attention turned fully to me. He seized my arm, his grip strong but not harsh, and silently pulled me outside into the crisp night air. What the hell, Eloise? He demanded, his voice low but desperate. His eyes searched mine, wild, like he was trying to read me, to figure me out. What are you doing with him? I yanked my arm free, furious now, my eyes flashing with heat. What the hell, Adam? I shot back, my voice rising. You ended it. Remember, you left me those cold, hurtful words, without any explanation. And now you show up here. What? To ruin my night. He ran a hand through his dark hair, looking every bit as undone as he felt. I was stupid, okay? His voice cracked, the frustration in it laced with a deep, raw vulnerability I hadn't heard before. I thought I could move on. I thought I could forget you, but I can't. He took a step closer, and I could see the pain in his eyes, the regret that had been eating at him. I love you, Eloise. I've loved you this whole time. His words hung in the air, raw and unguarded. It took everything in me not to fall apart right there in the street. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. Not after everything. You don't get to do this, I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to stay calm. I'm not some game to you. You don't get to pick me up and put me down whenever it suits you. You hurt me, Adam. His eyes were searching now, his hands trembling slightly as he stepped closer, his expression breaking. I know, he whispered, his voice hoarse, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if I have to. But please, he stepped closer, his voice cracking as he reached for me. Don't shut me out now. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You don't get to decide when it's convenient to love me, I said, my voice cold as I stood my ground. I was scared, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Scared of what I felt for you. Scared of losing control. But I lost you anyway, and it's killing me. My heart cracked at his words, but I held firm, my anger giving me strength. Good, I spat, my voice bitter. Maybe now you know how it feels. I turned and walked away, my heart splintering with every step, tears blurring my vision as his broken voice called after me. Desperate. Eloise, please. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. The sound of his voice followed me. But I kept walking, feeling each of my steps take me further away from him, further away from the pain and confusion he had caused me. The next day, everything I thought I knew about Adam came crashing down. Henry and Hayden burst into my apartment, their faces grim. Eloise, Adam's in the hospital. He's in critical condition. Panic gripped me instantly, my chest tightening as I rushed to the hospital. The cold, sterile smell of the ER hit me like a wave as I darted through the hallways, desperate to find him. When I arrived at the ward, my heart stopped. A hospital bed, covered with a white sheet, was being wheeled out of the room. No, Adam, I screamed, my voice breaking as I crumbled to the floor. My legs gave out beneath me, and I reached out, unable to breathe. You can't leave me. You can't just disappear. The words felt like a physical blow, and I gasped for air, my chest tight with panic. I love you. Please, come back to me. My sobs echoed through the empty hallway, the emptiness inside me growing with every breath. I had spent so many nights lying awake, imagining this moment, the moment out of anger, the moment he would be gone from my life forever. But I never imagined it would hurt this much. I never imagined that it would feel like my heart was being ripped out of my chest. How could he just leave me like that, without a word, without even giving me a chance to say goodbye? And then, out of nowhere, a voice pierced the fog of my grief. Smooth and steady, like he had never left me at all. You love me, huh? I whipped around, my body trembling. And there he was standing in front of me, alive. It felt like a dream, a cruel twist of fate, a figment of my tortured imagination. My heart thudded erratically in my chest, my mind refusing to catch up with the reality in front of me. You're okay. The question came out in a strangled gasp, as if I wasn't sure I could trust my own senses. Adam stepped closer, his eyes soft with an emotion I hadn't noticed before, as though the depth of his feelings was finally coming to light. Better than okay, he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. Eloise, there's something I need to tell you. A lot of things. Can you come to the room and listen? He asked, offering his hand. Okay, I followed him inside, and he closed the door behind us for privacy. What was I about to say? Damn, I forgot. He pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. Look, I'm sorry for everything I said before. for the lies on that last day. And the date you saw, it wasn't really a date. Hayden was there too. He just went to the bathroom. I didn't explain because I was terrified of showing my true feelings, especially to someone I care about. I was afraid of getting hurt, especially by you, because I knew a single word from you could break me. Rejection scares me, Eloise. You're right, I'm not as tough as I seem. I hide behind this tough facade because I'm actually vulnerable. But you've shown me that it's okay to be open, to fight for what's important. People like me lie and hide, not realizing how much we hurt others in the process. So why am I telling you all this? Because I can't bear the thought of losing you. He paused, seemingly gathering his thoughts. Eloise, I've always been fascinated by you. It began that night during your internship at my company. Ever since, I've enjoyed watching you from afar. Even behind those thick glasses, your beauty shines through. Your disguise was useless. I knew you were my friend's little sister, so I thought you were off limits. I convinced myself that those brief moments were enough. But then, you left the company, and I didn't know how we'd ever meet again. So, when your brothers offered me that project and asked me to keep you distracted, out of impulse I agreed. It gave me another chance to be close to you. That's also why I agreed to the 1-month trial. Believe me, every moment we spent together, it wasn't just passing time. It was real, and it meant everything to me. His words, tender and vulnerable, struck a chord deep within me. In that moment, I felt the pull between us, stronger than ever. His voice faltered, and his gaze shifted downward, full of concern. But then your brothers, they made me see how everything went wrong from the start. How I wasn't honest with you right from the beginning. They warned me not to hurt you, told me I needed to make things right. I panicked, especially during those last days. I was so caught up in my own emotions, so I ended it, thinking it was the best decision for both of us. He looked at me, waiting for some reaction. I didn't answer right away, just staring at him. I then took the paper from my hands and reread it. Why are you still reading it? I've already said everything I needed to, he said, confused. I stayed quiet, still gazing at him. Is that really everything you wanted to tell me? Huh, he replied, surprised. Then it's not enough. Not enough. Frustrated, I crumpled the paper and tossed it aside. There's just one thing I need to know, Adam. What is it? Do you like me? No. For a moment, my face went blank. But then I glared at him. Then what's all this? Your confession made it sound like you like me. But now you're saying no. What do you really want, Adam? I don't just like you. I love you, Eloise. He stepped closer, his voice steady and clear. You made me feel things, and now you have to deal with it. Before I could reply, he grabbed the back of my neck and kissed me. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me closer. Our lips met in a rush of warmth, and I could feel everything he had been holding back, the passion, the longing, the emotions he had kept inside. He kissed me as if he had been waiting for this moment as much as I had. In that kiss, he told me everything I needed to hear. That I wasn't just passing through his life, that I was special to him, that he loved me. Even if it was just for that moment, I would hold on to it, as long as it was with him. I love you, Eloise, he whispered when we finally pulled apart, his voice raw with emotion. I honestly thought you'd never come around. I was ready to give up. This is my last shot. What? I asked, confused. You heard me, he said, a bit embarrassed. I begged your brother for this chance. I even learned how to cook for them just to get this opportunity. You wouldn't believe how picky they are. But they saw how serious I am about you. Yeah, I said, still stunned that he'd gone to such lengths to win my attention, even learning to cook. He suddenly pulled a coin from his pocket and handed it to me. Do you remember the wish we made at the fountain? Back then, all I wished for was your happiness, to see that sunshine on your face, even if I couldn't be by your side. I kept the second coin as a reminder of you. But this moment is even better. Seeing you happy right here beside me is everything I could have hoped for. He gently ran his fingers through my hair. You've always been my little goddess. I think about you every night. Every night. Every moment. You have no idea how close I was to losing it after that breakup. I couldn't focus on anything. Couldn't even work properly. I thought you were fine after the breakup. I thought you'd become a heartbreaker. How can you say that? I love you too much. I became a better and healthier man because of you. I've had so many hang-ups in life. I'm sorry about that. I guess that's why it took so long for us to get here. It's okay. What matters is the present and the future, I said. We shared another sweet kiss. I lost count of how many times we had kissed. The only thing that mattered now was that I had his love. A knock came from the door. Adam, are you guys done in there? We'd like to come in, James called. We're getting paranoid in here. The hallway is too spooky, Alex added. They even said there's a ghost patient here, a gay one. Elijah chipped in. Adam didn't stop kissing me and just knocked back at them. You're just making up rumors again. Stay there or go somewhere else. We're not done here. Marry Eloise first before you finish whatever you're doing in there. Henry shouted. I will. Adam kissed my face with tiny kisses. After we're done here? 3 months later, beneath the breathtaking sunset sky, at Bliss Horizon, we stood together, hand in hand, surrounded by the people who mattered most to us. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, casting a gentle, golden glow over everything, turning the moment into something almost ethereal. It was a scene that felt like a dream, marking the beginning of our journey together. As the ceremony came to an end, we exchanged our vows. Adam's smile was pure radiance, his eyes sparkling with love and hope for the future. It was the kind of smile that made everything else around us disappear, as if time had slowed, leaving only the two of us in that perfect moment. I couldn't help but smile right back at him, my heart swelling with love for the man who stood before me, promising to spend his life with me. With a playful glint in my eyes, I leaned in slightly, whispering just loud enough for him to hear, I'll make sure you eat, my voice light with affection and mischief, followed by a cheeky wink. He grinned and gave my cheeks a playful pinch. And I'll make sure you drool in your sleep, he teased back, making me laugh as I playfully slapped his shoulder. I felt my heart grow even fonder, knowing that these moments of playful banter were the heart of our relationship. Our laughter, full of joy and lightness, mingled with the sound of the breeze rustling through the trees and the distant waves crashing on the shore. It was as if the world had melted away, leaving just us completely in tune with each other, and nothing could shake the connection we had forged. We had been through so much together, ups and downs. But here we were, ready to embark on the next chapter of our lives, side by side. When we shared a final kiss, lingering a little longer than before, sealing our vows, a deep sense of peace washed over me. This was the moment I had always dreamed of. And when we pulled away, I saw the same fulfillment in his eyes, the same joy. We were building something beautiful together, something strong, something that would stand the test of time. Hand in hand, we began walking down the aisle, ready to face the future, knowing that as long as we had each other, we would always find our way home. Story ends. Thanks for listening. See you again for another silly story.